Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's great to be on my feet again. Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Liberal-NDP government, the standard of living in Canada is in total freefall, and the carbon tax is causing this crisis. The only goals this government has accomplished is to indebt Canadians more and more, making bankers and bondholders wealthier. Common sense Conservatives have a plan for Canada and a plan to restore the promise of Canada, where people are the master and the government is the servant. A Canada where if you work hard, you can accomplish anything. A Canada that's glorious and free. We will axe the tax so that Canadians can afford to put food on their tables, put gas in their cars, and heat in their homes. Mr. Speaker, back in March, I asked this Liberal minister when will he see the facts and axe the tax. Well, the facts is that in Canada, life has never been so unaffordable. Our next generation will be the first generation that has it worse than the previous generation. I understand the frustration that Canadians are facing and know that because of this government's incompetence, they are broke and Canada is broken. Our young people are stuck in their parents' basements because under this Liberal NDP government, rent has doubled, home prices have doubled, the cost of a down payment has doubled, and our dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to. So people's hard work doesn't pay either. All of this due to the reckless government spending and bad Liberal policies. Since I asked the minister my question, the Liberals have refused to listen to the 70% of Canadians and the 70% of premiers who asked that the hike be spiked and that the increase on the carbon tax be avoided. But nonetheless, the Liberals did not listen, and they increased it on April 1st by 23%. The minister is making life more unaffordable for all Canadians every day. We've said it over and over again, Mr. Speaker, and I'll say it again. If you tax the farmer that grows the food, and you tax the trucker that delivers the food, and you tax the grocer who sells the food, Canadians can't afford to buy food. The carbon tax is a tax on everything, both indirectly and directly, and it makes all aspects of our life more unaffordable. For example, a school division in my riding, Peace River School Division, reported that they have spent $522,000 on the carbon tax since 2020. That's over $280,000 on transportation costs and $240,000 in carbon tax to heat their facilities. What a shame it is for the government to be putting this strain on our education system and in every area of the country for that matter. I wonder how many teachers they would have been able to hire with that money, or how many new books, or how many new building materials to build new schools with could have been paid for with this money. And think about it. Think about all the property tax that needed to be raised to pay this tax. This is a tax on a tax. This also affects municipalities who are not exempt from the carbon tax. The city of Whitecourt, just heating their municipal buildings is costing them $30,000 a year. There's no dimension of our society that isn't being crushed by this carbon tax. So my question is to the minister again, and this Liberal government, when will they do something good for Canadians and axe their disastrous carbon tax?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honourable member for the question. Mr. Speaker, there is a common misconception about carbon pollution pricing. It is not a tax. It is a measure recognized as one of the lowest cost and most effective ways of reducing greenhouse gases, and therefore of tackling the adverse impacts of climate change, which are very real, Mr. Speaker. And it is also a measure that we have designed to make life more affordable for Canadians. Natural disasters are on the rise due to climate change, and I don't need to tell you, Mr. Speaker, that we're all suffering the effects and the cost too. Last summer, forest fires forced tens of thousands of Canadians to evacuate their homes. There were also droughts in the prairies, where the honourable member is from, intense hurricanes on the East Coast, extreme flooding on the West Coast, and melting permafrost in the North. What does that mean, Mr. Speaker? It means we all need to accelerate climate action. Carbon pricing is core to serious climate action. It provides an incentive to innovate and reduce emissions while allowing businesses and households to decide for themselves how best to reduce emissions. And carbon pricing is not about raising revenues. All proceeds from carbon pricing are returned to the jurisdiction it was collected from. The Canada Carbon Rebate, the CCR, returns fuel charge proceeds to Canadian residents through direct deposit or check every 3 months. 8 out of 10 households, Mr. Speaker, receive more money back through the CCR than they pay towards the fuel charge. And residents of these provinces living in small and rural communities also receive a rural top-up, which the government under Bill C-59 is proposing to double from 10% of the base amount to 20%. The system actually leaves most families, especially low and middle income ones, better off financially. Mr. Speaker, carbon pricing is a fair system that does leave more money in the pockets of Canadian workers and that makes life more affordable for lower income families. But the benefits go way beyond that. It is a tool to help us create healthier communities and usher in clean growth and a more sustainable future for our children and our children's children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, no matter how many times the minister says it, Canadians are not better off under their carbon tax scheme. Canadians are feeling the weight of everyday costs going up, and we've seen that this carbon tax has cascaded through the economy, making life unaffordable. We also see it when a local school division has to pay $522,000 in carbon tax to heat their buildings and drive their buses. The carbon tax affects every area of our economy wherever we live in Canada. No one is better off under this carbon tax. The Conservatives, we believe in innovation, not taxes. We believe that we have the ability to solve the issues that we see in front of us without taxing and making Canadians' lives less affordable. This carbon tax is not an innovation. It drives innovation out of our country and makes people poor. So when will the government listen to us and axe the tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just to reiterate, by putting a price on carbon pollution and returning the proceeds directly to Canadians, Canada is using the most efficient and affordable way to fight climate change and reduce emissions. If Canada is recognized internationally as a climate leader, it is in good part, large part, due to the robust carbon pollution pricing system we have in this country. Mr. Speaker, we are seeing great progress. According to the World Bank, there are now 73 carbon pricing initiatives in place or slated for implementation across the globe, following our example here in Canada. Together, these initiatives cover 23% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So, of course, Canada will keep promoting carbon pollution pricing. We can't afford not to. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.